Zig Ziglar has a quote that I love, and I think it totally applies to this conversation we're about to have with our expert guest today. To get what you want, help other people get what they want. And so keep that thought in mind, and we'll come back to that. I would like to welcome everybody to this amazing call that we're about to have and this interview with Ralph Henderson. So we were just talking right before we got started here about, the shift that we've gone through as a country from pre-pandemic through the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. And as business owners, how do you be flexible and innovate and do all those really amazing things? So I was really pleased to connect with Ralph over this downtime that we had doing a speaking class. And he is an amazing supply chain management expert. And we're going to get into that today. But he is just like one of those wonderful human beings that you meet that after you've spent some time around him, you feel better. And I think that little extra thing that Ralph brings to his business is what really makes everything successful. And when he works with people, it just takes it to that next level because he's just one of those special people. So for everybody who's brand new to these podcasts, you might be kind of going, why is a financial advisor having these kind of talks? Well, I'm Tara Nolan, and I'm known as the financial advisor who helps you achieve and retain the lifestyle you want. But I am a huge believer that everything that we do in life gets done with teamwork. And when you build the teams around you, it helps everything go. I have teams that help me with my horseback riding. I have teams that help me with my speaking. I have teams that I work with in my financial business. And I'm interviewing amazing people like Ralph that have their own teams that help them succeed. So that's what this series is all about. So let me go ahead and introduce Ralph so you know who we're talking to, and then we'll get to it. So Ralph Henderson is an innovative, dynamic, and accomplished production executive with over 20 years of diverse industry experience. He is known for delivering excitement and value, driving brand integrity, and accelerating revenue growth for logistics and supply chain organizations. Above all, and I can vouch for this, Ralph cherishes the opportunity to partner with leaders from all walks of life and connect with others with their full potential to grow personally, develop professionally, and ultimately succeed as human beings. Ralph is also proud to be an active member of the Material Handling Association for the last 20 years and was the chairman of the Supply Chain Executive Council. So welcome to the show, Ralph.
Wow. Thank you so much, Terry. It's such a pleasure to be here. What a wonderful introduction. And I will tell your audience, as much as I appreciate that, what they should glean from that is you are the average of the 5 people you hang around. And that is good for me. I'm not so sure for Tara. So that's why I'm here. So thank you for all of that.
So, Ralph, we're going to get to the supply chain management in a minute, but I just wanted to start right out the gate with, I look at you as a role model for what success looks like in business, because obviously you're making money, right? That's why we all have businesses, but you're enjoying what you're doing. And to me, that's when you're successful in business is when you actually are enjoying your life while you're at it. So, you just have this charisma. But as I've gotten to know you more and more, what I love is that it's honest. I mean, you really take care of the people. You reach out and you're fun and you help everybody up level when you're around you, but you really do that. And, I met you in our professional speaker program and I was attracted to you because you have that charisma, but you have leadership. And so I'm really interested, Ralph. Have you always been this way, or is this something that you've kind of developed with your people skills over the years?
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Interestingly enough, it is something that was modeled for me. My father was a business owner, and he too was one of these people who were bigger than life. As a matter of fact, as you may remember, I'm an identical twin, and unfortunately, my identical twin passed when we were younger, and my father has passed. And I tell people all the time, between my father and my identical twin and I was the quiet one. So, and you know me well enough to know that's funny. So it was really modeled for me. I saw it growing up. I saw it with my dad. I saw it with my brother. It is a matter of just absolutely loving what you do. I mean, that's what my father did. That's what my brother did. I went the traditional route. I went to college. I went in, as you know, I went to the Navy. I did this very structured, very, organized route, where dad was in the entertainment business and my brother was playing for rock and roll bands in the 80s, and here I am, this naval officer on submarines. And, at some point in time, when I finally reached my mid 40s, I thought, what, they might have had something going on there. And so that's when I got with my financial advisor. And I know you and I haven't talked about this, but for your audience, I will say, on your team, you need a coach, somebody who knows you and your business and business in general. You obviously need mentors. You need people who can help direct you in an intelligent, pragmatic, objective way. But you also need a financial advisor. And I'm happy to say I've had my financial advisor for nearly 20 years, the whole time I've been in business. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that person. And I thank him and his team a lot for that. But really getting back to your question, it's really that model of seeing how it looked and what these guys did and how they made people feel. I know some of your audience has heard Maya Angelou's quote where, people may or may not remember what you told them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I just think that's really important. And I appreciate you very much for, honoring that. But that is something that I have seen, I grew up with. And I just believe it's a part of what we do. And I would just close this part of the conversation with this. If there's anybody in your audience that right now is not doing what they absolutely love to do, they really need to rethink that and talk to somebody about starting that.
I love it. Great. So now my next question, I want to start delving into supply chain management. And I'm very interested about that because as a logistics officer in the Air Force, obviously supply chain is everything. And I know you did a few years in the Navy, but how did you become to be in the space that you're in now as a supply chain manager? Because I mean, you have the expertise about the details, but you bring this whole other element to that. So how did you make that transition, like you said, from structured kind of naval officer to this amazing, charismatic individual?
Yeah, no, and that's what's cool about this. I'm a big fan of, things happening providentially. And I believe that I've had the right brain or the drama excitement side of me from family. And I've had the left brain analytical, logistical put into me, via academia and military. And I believe what's happened is over time, those two have come together. And so that's why I believe I'm unique, really, to be honest with you, and why people look at me and, the really left brain ones think I'm just completely wacky. And the right brain ones think, I have those skills that are required, especially in the supply chain area, in order to understand it and be credible. And so the way I think I came to it was I just brought those two worlds together when I decided what it was I was trying to do and what I wanted to pursue. And I believe that's the part that's helped me become successful, is that I'm able to tap into both of those sides and do it effectively and, and have real results. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter unless somebody is benefiting and getting value from whatever it is you're doing. I just add to it, this isn't a dress rehearsal. We don't get to do this again. So why not have fun doing it? And not in a fluffy, non-meaning kind of a way, but in a very fun, very uplifting, very value-adding kind of a way.
And I love how you said that. And I'm making a note for myself, actually, as you said it, is this ability to bring your right brain and your left brain skill sets together. And Ralph, that really just ties into this concept that I'm really trying to work on articulating about having your team is, you can lean into your strengths. And then that's why you bring in like your financial advisor or your other advisors so that they can fill the things that are not your strengths, because you kind of need this holistic process to succeed. And I love it though, how you've been able to marry your left and right brain together to be successful in this really pretty kind of, I would say, fairly dry and technical space, but you're making it fun. So
go ahead. I'm working with an organization right now called Supply Chain Brain. Does that not just encapsulate it all? I mean, so they're a 25-year trade publication based in New York, and I'm working with them right now producing their webinars. And we did that because last year when the pandemic hit, everybody was wondering how we were going to get together, how we were going to transfer knowledge, how we were going, because look, the innovative, creative processes weren't going to stop or slow down. I mean, as a matter of fact, some would argue this is when they actually start to speed up. And so Supply Chain Brain reached out to me, asked me if I would help them grow their webinar business. We started at the beginning of this year thinking we were going to do a couple of these a month. And at the end of August, we had produced 41 of these webinars. And look, I'm not bragging and I'm not trying to say, that other people can't be successful at this. It just goes to show you how much the supply chain really wants to do this and how important it is for us to get this information out there. And I just yesterday came back from the annual conference for all of supply chain that's produced by the trade association that oversees it. And it is very exciting with what's going on right now. But that shift had to happen for us to go from live to online. And now in 22, we're talking about, interestingly enough, how do we bring those two things together, almost like the right and the left. And I think 22 is going to be a fascinating year when it comes to that.
So I really like that. And you've piqued my interest because like you're saying, your events used to be all totally live and now you're shifting it. How have you brought that, that human contact, that energy, and then just being able to have the body language experience and going out to dinners? How have you brought that to the webinar space in a way that you don't lose that goodness?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And one of the things that you have to do is kind of like what we're doing here, right? This could have been a dry conversation easily. We could have been very boring here, right? So what I do when I bring them together, it was really cool because it was the 80-20 rule, Tara. What happened was 80% of what I was doing live, I was able to parlay over into the online world. Because look, you still need a theme, you still need a subject, an abstract, you still need takeaways. And then what I did was, based on the professional speaking knowledge and education that you and I got, I was then also able to teach and educate and coach and promote these presenters so they weren't just dry heads on camera. We have fun, we engage, we make sure there's humor, there's drama, there's disagreement, there's, provocative is a word I use a lot. Right? I mean, so, I tell them all the time, if I have a panel, if you guys agree 100% of the time, I only need one of you. So we have to have these kind of things. So that's what you have to do. It's like, it's almost like putting together a film or a production. You need an open, a provocative open, an attractive open. You need meat on the content. You need something people are interested in, they're going to lean in on. You need people who are going to present that in a way that's interesting and attractive and not boring and robotic. And then you need a powerful close, and so these are things you and I learned. These are things I knew from producing live events for, the last 12 years as a business. And so that's what we do. And that's what the clients are seeing. And I hear it almost all the time when we're finished. They're like, holy smokes, you told me this was going to be different, but I didn't realize how different. But that's because we rehearse. Does that sound familiar to you? Right? We get together. We actually do shows before the show, and then we have real campaigns, 6, 8, 10-week campaigns so that people get excited about these things. And that's how we're parlaying what we were doing live over to online. Now, is it going to replace it completely? Of course not. Do we still need to get together live? Yes, we're humans, and that's going to be necessary. But it doesn't mean we can't now be better with doing this than we were before because of the appreciation that we have for it now.
So I want to dig into that a little bit more about the public speaking, because you do supply chain management. And speaking seems like it's like a sequitur, like a totally different stovepipe. So I'm interested about, why do you continue to learn? Because I think you shared with me that financially speaking, you've already arrived. You don't have to work anymore. So why do you choose to keep expanding your world and bringing this education when you could just be hitting the golf course?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that is something, believe it or not, I attempted to do, not the golf part, but the not doing this part. And, and what I found out is we're all wired to do something. And I'm just wired to do this because I do like to see people excel in areas they didn't think they could excel in. And look, at the end of the day, I do get a lot of value from helping, the UPSs and the Lowe's Foods and, L'Oreal's and all of these different companies in the supply chain space come together, and train some of these people on maybe how to present a little better. I did a live show, a couple of years ago where I had 6 executives do 30-minute talks all together with one break in the middle, and all of them told me afterwards they thought that was going to bomb, and it ended up being one of the most powerful things they had ever been a part of. And so that's what keeps me excited. That's what keeps me going. And the reason I took the class that you and I went to together was because I want to be able to continue to add value to these executives and to these folks who are presenting. And I really do, I really do see that. And I get a lot out of that. And so I just decided, again, with my financial advisor and business coach and, people in my life, I just said, this is what I want to do. This is what I find enjoyment in. So why not do this until maybe that changes or something else happens? But right now, this is really it.
So I love that. And what you're making me think about is, do you have like a specific example when you're dealing with people in like the supply chain space that you go, if you think about this way that you communicate or how you tell your story, it's not about, your product needs to be good and solid. That's a given. But how do you help them understand that it's how they share that story that really makes it come alive?
Well, I tell them, what amazes me, and I've told this story so many times, what amazes me is how we can watch a movie or binge on Netflix, whether you're a Friends fan or you're a Sopranos fan or anything in between, because those are both families, by the way. It just amazes me how we get what they're doing, but yet when it's our turn to disseminate information or to transfer knowledge or to help somebody understand one another, we want to make it dry and crusty and academic. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I think what happens is we think, especially in supply chain, because we are mostly left brain, i.e. engineering minded, manufacturing minded, linear minded, we think that transfer of knowledge can only come by way of how we got it in school versus how we got it in entertainment. And so what I do is I say, nope, I'm here to tell you that the way you get it via entertainment is as if not more powerful. The way you got it in education is how we're going to then validate what it is that we're telling them. So this, again, is one of those bridges, if you will, where we start out with the Netflix show, or we start out with the sitcom, and we get people excited about what it is we're talking about, a product, a service, a direction, or what have you. And then we go to school on giving them the numbers and the metrics and the information that's going to allow them to then validate and make that concrete. And so that's how I believe I've been able to communicate this in some way for these folks to understand maybe a more dramatic or entertainment kind of a way.
All right, I'm going to ask a follow-up on this because this is hitting home for me.
Okay.
So in my book, I'm writing a financial book, and I'm turning it on its head. I'm not writing your typical financial how-to. And so I'm having a story that kind of connects, and then following it up with then the details and the facts. And I had some advanced readers look at it, and it's very interesting because my creative type people are like, finally a book we get. Yes. But my engineer types that I had do the advanced reading, they were like, okay, well, first thing, you just need to get rid of all those stories.
That's great. That is absolutely great. So what you might think of, and that's a really good point. So instead of it being a, kind of an A and then B, maybe it's A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, right? So now you've got these really pithy, fun, dramatic stories, and then information and numbers and metrics, and then another pithy story. And maybe it has a different angle, or maybe it has a different flavor or a vibe to it. And so now you have kind of this structure of, fun facts, fun, mm-hmm. and maybe that appeals to both audiences.
It's interesting though, but I'm wondering, and you might even have an example of this though, is even these engineer types that think that they just want to have the checklist. Do you find though, when you sneak it up on them and you have a little anecdote or a story that engages them and they don't even know it?
Well, here's the way I'm going to answer your question, because I've been challenged by left brain people. and especially if they're like executives, right? Because that's who I deal with mostly. So they'll challenge me about the creativity and the innovativeness, and it's very interesting. I'll ask them a question: what do you drive? And they'll look at me, and I'm like, I just want to know, what vehicle do you drive? Now you can imagine, I hear things like Range Rover and Mercedes and BMW and Audi. And I'm like, last time I checked, good old Ford would do the same thing all of those things do. I wonder why you drive that vehicle. And look, I'm not trying to tick them off. I'm not trying to upset them. What I'm trying to get them to understand is they are emotional creatures at home. They are emotional creatures personally. What they're struggling with is allowing that emotion to come into their professional world. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think the genius is for them as organizations, is to allow other people to get emotional in the professional world, because now all of a sudden their product and service looks like those high-end vehicles, right? So now it's like, ooh, I want to drive that car, or I want that color. And then once the person gets excited about it, you can give them all of the facts and figures on why what they're deciding to do makes sense. But until you get them really excited about it, all you're really doing is creating a commodity. And if you do that, which is fine, at the end of the day, it's just going to be how much cheaper is yours than the other person's.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and it's bringing me back to a lot of my military training, like especially when I was learning to fly airplanes, was you kept your emotion out of it. And that was like a big thing, was you don't get emotional, you're like a robot, you handle the emergencies, you fly the plane, and that's what you do. But as I'm evolving into my leadership, and I'm always reading books and doing that learning, and the message seems to keep coming back is you need to be vulnerable, you need to have some emotion, because being a leader is when you connect with people. Being a manager is just, kind of handing out tasks and making sure things get done. But being a leader and a CEO and being inspirational, you have to bring that emotional piece in. And it's so interesting because that was not the way I was trained, but it seems to be the way the things really work. And it sounds like that's what you've been seeing.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with this. And it's really cool because it's so relevant to your world. If emotion did not play in the game of money and finances, we would have written a software program to figure out how to game the stock market a long time ago. The only reason we haven't been able to do that is because you don't write code on emotion.
Ah, I love it. So Ralph, we've covered a lot of ground, and this time is just flying by. What's one takeaway that you want anyone who's listening about supply chain management to take away from our conversation today? Like a nugget to go, if here I'm in this space and I want to come up to that next level.
Yeah, you care about something. If I'm speaking to an executive, if I'm speaking to an influencer, I say, you care about something. You truly want something to be better, and you want to provide service, and you want to add value. What you have to ask yourself is, how much do you believe it? And if that number isn't 100%, you then have to ask yourself, what do I do to get there? Because until you get there, you're always going to be reserved in how you proceed in that thing that you're so passionate about wanting to do.
I love it. So, and Ralph, if people want to get connected with you or learn more about how you can help them in their business, what's the best way for them to reach you?
OptimizeSupplyChains.com or Ralph Henderson on LinkedIn. You can find me pretty easily in any one of those places, and you might actually find some fun and interesting things along the way in pursuing me on those.
You definitely will find some fun and interesting things, I can tell you.
So that would be good.
So I just kind of wanted to do a brief recap, but I mean, what I've gotten from this conversation today is Ralph has all the expertise when it comes to supply chain management. But what he's bringing to the table is helping you connect with the feeling. So he's really, Ralph, you didn't share your success story. Maybe you could just do a real quick recap on that, where how you approached the supply chain and you narrowed it down to what seemed like a very small number, and then you created a huge win. I love that.
Well, everybody wants to warm the ocean on the marketing side, but sales and the executives really just want to cook one or two fish. Well, you got to bring those together, right? So I had a company that hired me to launch a new product, and we decided to go to a trade show that had 29,100 people. Well, in creating their ideal prospect for this particular product, I uncovered that going to that show was 11 people. And when I told the president that, he thought I meant 11,000, and I had to clarify to him I meant 11. I then had to pick him up off the chair. Now, look, we still marketed to the other, 28,089 or whatever it was, but the reality of it is we had to go after those 11. What was cool is we engaged with 8 of them, and of those 8, 4 of them were doing projects that this product was perfect for. And of the 4, we got 2 of those projects. Well, before we went back to that show 2 years later, that company that had hired me generated $4 million worth of revenue with those 2 clients that we went after by focusing on that very, very narrow niche of those 11 prospects. And so I would just tell everybody, the narrower your niche, the wider your market. If you want to warm the ocean, that's fine. But at the end of the day, nobody's happy until I cook 1 or 2 of those fish.
I love it. So I just want to recap really quick one more time for everybody. Ralph has talked about the way that you need to take your expertise and what you're good at, but find your passion in it, find what you care about and how you're going to add value. And then I love that. That's great marketing advice, Ralph, is the more narrow you make your niche, then the more successful you're going to be with your business. That's an amazing concept. One more time, Ralph, how do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out and connect?
OptimizeSupplyChains.com or Ralph Henderson on LinkedIn, Omnichannel Productions. You'll see me on LinkedIn.
And I can just vouch for that, everyone. If you are looking for someone to help you create your events and get in connecting with people, reach out to Ralph because he can really get it done. So I'm very excited to hear about the success that you're going to have with this insight that Ralph Henderson has given you today. You know, we've talked about a lot of really good concepts about bringing vulnerability and feeling into the left side, the analytical side, and how you marry those for success. And if anyone would like to reach Ralph, just contact him on LinkedIn, like he said. Don't forget that you can share this interview with your friends who may not have been able to watch today or listen in today. And I'm really looking forward to sharing our awesome topic next time. Can't wait to hear about your success, and I will talk with you all later. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.